on Tuesday a couple weeks ago when a very large majority of Austinites rejected an unprecedented city property tax increase of about 20% with Prop Q going down. And that election showed and sent a very clear message to City Hall on behalf of taxpayers that there's a lack of trust. And so from our perspective, we really strongly believe that the first way you rebuild trust, if there's distrust between taxpayers and city leaders, is you do that through an outside, external performance audit of the entire city budget. This is not a new idea. It's also not unique to Austin, but we're here today to announce that Save Austin Now and a number of our partners and coalition members and other community leaders are going to be launching a charter amendment. This will be a petition effort to put a charter amendment on the ballot in May. We have about 10 weeks to collect 25,000 or so valid signatures of city residents, and we're excited about this opportunity to bring transparency and accountability to the city of Austin. Taxpayers deserve this. Our city leaders will benefit from this, whether they see that or not right now, but we're very excited about the positive contribution that a performance audit will produce for our city budget next year and in the future, and also, oh dear, not sure what we're going to do about that. We'll have to just muscle through. No, we believe that auditing ought to be a regular, outside auditing ought to be a regular function of a city as large as Austin. And it has not been a regular practice. It is true that the city has an internal auditor. It is also true that they have audited at times parts of the budget, but we have not had in our city history that we're aware of a complete audit externally of the entire city budget. And it is high time that happens. So I want to introduce our speakers here individually. I'll start with Bill Ailshire, former county judge here in Travis County, who authored and helped put together this charter amendment and the petition language. Bill. Always something.
Always something. Well, all right, we'll muscle through. Okay. I think you should take a look around, try to remember this moment, because I truly believe that if this charter amendment is adopted and it does what it is designed to do, that this will be an historic moment for you to remember. This is when Austin revolution to save Austin started. I drafted the charter amendment and I want to lay out its key features. It was based on the City of Houston's audit. That's where we started, but we added some things that Austin has that are different than Houston as well. The first thing I want to emphasize is that this will be an independent audit. It will not be something that the politicians on the city council or even the city manager can control. The outside independent contractor will be required in the contract to guarantee that they will find sufficient savings to cover their cost of their services. So the net cost of this independent initiative, we call it, is going to pay for itself. The other thing is that this would be done once, as soon as it's feasible to do it after the election, but then it has to be repeated at least once every 5 years. And we put in a provision that bars the city council from even calling a tax rate election unless there has been an efficiency audit done within the last year before the election. The city auditor will be in charge of writing the specifications for the review and consistent with what we've put in the charter amendment. The City Council is assigned a non-discretionary duty to give the auditor the support that the auditor would need to go through this process. It would have to be a competitive process. And the main features are, first, as a top priority, affordability is going to be measured now. What does the city government cost, and how do you benchmark that against the people's ability to afford to pay for that? Performance will be another area where we look at how do you measure whether or not a program or a department is performing well and actually achieving some outcomes. It'll take a look, as they did in Houston, at the organizational structure, the way all parts of the city are managed, and whether or not it's management heavy or can improve the staffing structure. It will also look at accountability of all the entities that contract with the city to provide services. It requires transparency, not only for the city's operation, but these contracting entities. The contractor will identify spending that can be reduced or eliminated, and we're going to have, in Houston they call it a forensic accounting analysis, and that's where you really look for risk of fraud, conflict of interest, abuse of use of the people's tax money. And then this is a comprehensive audit. All elements of the city of Austin and the entities it controls would be subject to this audit. We don't call it an audit here because we don't want people to be confused about the fact there is already an outside financial audit that is done. That is not what this is. In fact, there's a prohibition in here that prohibits this contract from including any services that would be performed by the outside independent financial auditor that produces the annual financial report. This would include all the entities that the city of Austin has to report accounting on. That's going to include Austin Energy, water, the airport, and so forth, but those are big jobs, and so this has some flexibility in it for the city auditor to do this in phases. They start with the core general fund, the property tax oriented expenditures, and study that in the first phase, and then in later phases they can take on the rest of the organization that is out there. The city staff is required to cooperate and provide whatever information the independent contractor needs. And then there is a prohibition against anyone trying to interfere with the conduct and independence of the independent contractor. So those are the basic features. And something that's been needed for a long time. I want to thank Mark Dushin for bringing this up and pushing for this kind of effort, and it's going to be momentous for Austin and something really important for the people who pay the taxes to the city of Austin.
Appreciate your excellent work here, Bill. Thank you. I want to introduce former Travis County Commissioner and local business and community leader, Gerald Doherty.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you all for being here today. When I was asked to come and say a few words about this, I gleefully accepted the opportunity to speak to people, and I'm glad to see all of you all here today, because y'all are the ones that's going to make sure that people understand and they see and they know what's being done. As an elected official, me being one of them for 14 years here in Travis County, the most important thing I think that anyone that is in an elected position can do for the people is to try to make sure that people understand there is transparency and that people are legitimately interested in how people feel. We know that because on November the 4th, I quite frankly can't recall an election where the result was 63% versus 37%. That is unbelievable, and it's certainly unheard of in this community. To do anything less than a complete, independent, outside, I'll use the word audit because that's the word that I think that most people understand, and that's what people in this community are wanting to do. I quite frankly am upset by the fact that you don't have the majority of the city council that does this without an effort like this. You know, an effort like this is very, very difficult, and it's very expensive, as Matt said. I mean, when you've got to try to get 25,000 signatures, that's not done without a lot of effort, and the effort takes money. And it's an insult to me to see the public have to put money into doing something that people should do just because it's the right thing to do. There's not a one of those council people up there that questions how important it is to people in this community, and especially after the Prop Q vote on November the 4th, they understand that people were sending a very strong message. All it's going to take would be 6 people from the council to say, you know what, we're not going to put those folks through the rigors to do that. We are going to bring it up before the commissioners or before the city council, and we're going to do it. That's what really needs to be done in this community. And if you're not willing to be one of those votes to force an outside audit, then you either ought to resign from your position, or you certainly need to lose your race if you elect to run again. That's how strongly I feel about this. I've been in this community for 57 years. I love this community. That's the reason I served for 14 years. I think that people deserve elected officials that are willing to stand up and say, we hear you, we know you're unhappy, and we're going to do the right thing. And y'all, it's not just the city council. If you get most of the money for your organization, whatever that entity is, whether it's the Commissioners Court, whether it's the Austin Transit Partnership, county government, if you are using public funds, then you need to show people in this community that you have nothing to hide from and that you are supportive of doing an audit. Why wouldn't you do this audit, especially like Bill said, that you can zero this thing out? They know, the people that would do this know that they can find the amount of money to offset whatever kind of expense they would have for this audit. So I look forward to working with Matt and everybody else in this town that is sensible about what needs to happen from this point forward, and look forward to some questions after this. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much, Gerald. I want to introduce former Vice President of the Austin Neighborhood Council, former mayoral candidate, Jeff Bowen.
Good morning. Thanks for everybody showing up. I'm glad now that we got some lights so we can get the glare off the top of my head properly. When I received a copy of this charter amendment that Mr. Elshire put together, I had to jump on this only because back in 2024 when I ran for mayor, when I was asked the questions about affordability, and I would say, how can we make things affordable if we don't know what we're doing? Because I called for an audit at different times, not so much even performance, because I kept questioning, we don't even know what some of our programs do. If we don't know what they're doing, then how can we make this town more affordable? And I continue to use the word audit. Nobody else would even pick up that mantra and even talk about it. And yet here we are a couple years later, and I am so glad to see that that is finally coming to the forefront. I totally agree, and I'm totally with this. I'm on this altogether. Should be a nonpartisan issue, and people are starting to ask the question. As Gerald said, 63% said something's not right And at what point is it that somebody's going to finally stand up and go, maybe they've got a point? They've lost trust, but trust takes leadership. And I've been seeing a failure in that. At least there's people in the community now willing to stand up and show some leadership and work on trying to get this process through. I'm totally on board with this. And again, I think everybody needs to make sure that they have got their books in order and making sure that they're being open and transparent for the taxpayers. We deserve that as taxpayers. Thanks, appreciate it.
And you're right, Jeff, you really did highlight the need for an audit during your race for mayor, and I very much appreciate that. I'll just say a couple things just logistically here, and then we'll take some questions. For those who don't know, Save Austin Now has successfully put 2 previous petition efforts on the ballot with Prop B and then with Prop A. So we know how to do this. I will say we've never done it in a 10-week window before, but sometimes deadlines can focus the mind. I believe there's going to be an enormous community response to this, maybe unprecedented. I almost have to wonder what justification someone could have as a citizen or as an elected official as to why you wouldn't want an audit, particularly now. We've seen a number of our journalism folks here in our town report on numerous examples of embarrassing, perhaps even illegal expenditures that have occurred over the last year or two. That, I think, adds urgency and justification to this. But for us, it's not simply about this being done once. Once it would be better than never, but it needs to be done regularly. And that's why this provision of it happening every 5 years or at least 1 year before any future tax rate election is absolutely critical. What the City Council tried to do with Prop Q, in my view, was morally bankrupt. They did not do the work to try to close the $33 million budget deficit, the work that we pay them to do at an inflated salary after they raised their salaries 40%. And instead of just trying to close that budget gap, they tried to confiscate an amount in taxes that was roughly 3 times that amount. So they obviously now know that was a terrible strategic mistake. The question is, what do they learn from it? And in the end, it's not enough for them, I think, to say nice things and to say that they're listening. It's enough. It will only be enough if this step is taken. And so we're very confident that the community response to this is going to be enormous. We're very confident that this will pass in May of 2026. We know there could be other charter amendments on the ballot. There's a question over the convention center issue, and I think the fire union is working on a charter petition as well. So we're launching today this effort to collect at least 25,000 valid signed petitions by City of Austin residents. All information is on our website, saveaustinnow.com, and we're excited to start this work with so many people, so many dedicated current, former public servants, business leaders, community leaders. Anyone that wants to help us in this endeavor, we want their help. Again, this is about transparency, it's about accountability, it's about affordability, and it's about efficiency. Questions, if any?
Yeah, what's it going to cost?
Well, yeah, the model, so the question is how much is it going to cost? So the provision that's in the charter amendment requires that the contractor be selected within 120 days, and then it requires that the audit be complete within 1 year after the contractor is selected. The model that we're using is Houston. It's a model, as Bill pointed out, courageous council member Mark Duchin pointed to quite a bit during the discussion around Prop Q and during the campaign. In Houston, I believe it cost $500,000. I believe they engaged in Ernst & Young. My memory is that outside audit produced something like $120 million in proposed savings. What Houston did is they considered those savings. They took some of them. They did draw a little bit on their own savings, and they avoided a tax rate election at a time when they had a significant budget deficit. They did not add an additional burden to taxpayers beyond what the law would allow. And I recognize there are structural differences in the way the city of Houston is governed with a strong mayor system versus our system. But nonetheless, Houston did this the right way. I will point out that their mayor is a lifelong Democrat who served in the state Senate for more than 30 years, John Whitmire. So again, as Jeff and a few of the others said, this is not a partisan issue. Every single taxpayer should want an audit. Every single taxpayer will benefit from an outside audit. And because of the provision that Bill put in here, it's absolutely clear that whatever this costs, the contractor will only be upholding the contract if they produce, at minimum, a savings that equals the cost of the contract. In the end, I will predict that they will produce 100 times the savings of the cost as a rough estimate. It will be something on the order of 100 times the savings. Bill?
What the law, the charter is going to say if this passes is the initiative independent contractor must, by contract, commit to identify annual or multi-year cost savings that exceed the cost of the contractor's services. Net zero, it pays for itself.
Yep. Did you have a question? Yep.
Yeah, City Manager T.C. Broadnax has announced recently that he's looking for an outside firm to do an efficiency and optimization study within the city government structure to find waste and other areas where the city might be able to save. How is this different from what the city is already saying that they're doing?
The very first word is that it's an independent review. This will be independent. Having the city manager decide who's going to do an audit, what's going to be in it, is not independent. If you want to restore trust, you have got to let this process work independent of the kind of political or selfish protection that incumbents may have. You're going to get more benefit for taxpayers if it's done this way and independent of the council and the management.
Precisely, and I'll just add one other point, and that is, without this charter amendment, we're going to be at the behest of whoever is in city leadership in the future, both from a city manager standpoint and from a city council and mayor standpoint. And so while the city manager now, after Prop Q got absolutely destroyed with 109,000 people turning out and voting no, talking about looking for efficiencies and doing these things, we always want our city leaders to look for efficiency to pursue a tax rate election. And I think it did happen to us to a modest extent, but it has not happened to the level it should have. Cities do not have the ability to run deficits. And the more they spend, the more unaffordable our city becomes. It is absolutely astounding to me that I have to say the following sentence. Raising taxes does not improve affordability. Everyone who works at City Hall believes affordability is the #1 problem in our community. 9 out of 10 council members and the mayor voted to increase taxes at a level we've never seen before in that way. So again, they made their choice. It failed very badly. It failed badly because taxpayers did not have trust in the way the city was doing things. The only way to restore trust is to do it independently. I recognize if I were the city manager, I might want to control things too. But you either believe that distrust exists or you don't, and if you do believe distrust exists, then you have to do something independently to rebuild that trust. And that's why we're going to do this externally. We're going to collect the signatures and do the work that's required. We're going to put this on the ballot. We're going to run a serious campaign where we educate people about it, let people know when to vote, how to vote, where to vote, just like we did on Prop Q. Other questions?
This is 10 weeks. I assume y'all are going to campaign pretty heavily for people in Austin. Where are they going to see who is this? And Adam's going to post billboards. Are you guys going to be outside grocery stores? What will this look like for people over the next 10 weeks?
Yeah, good question. So this is a two-phase effort, right? You have the petition collection side, and you have the campaign once you're certified and put on the ballot, and you have to do them in sequence, obviously. We do have, 4 or 5 other significant people who are actively involved in our effort at the leadership level. Some of them are out of town today. Susan Spataro, former county attorney, being one of them, Adam Lowy, local business leader here, and several others. We are going to be utilizing all lawful methods of petition collection. Again, we've done this before at Save Austin Now, so we know how to do it. We'll be using mail. We'll be doing in-person collection. We'll have locations around the city where you can go ahead and fill one out and sign it. We're going to work on making sure that someone can download it from the website, print it, and send it in. Unfortunately, it has to be probably two-sided printing, so that may be too complicated. But nonetheless, we're going to make it as easy as we can for Austinites to find the petition, to read it, to understand it, and then to sign it if they choose. By signing it, again, all they're doing is agreeing that it needs to be on the ballot. The large percentage of people who sign it will support it as well, but fundamentally, it's hard for me to understand why anyone would not want this on the ballot. If after the campaign voters decide that they don't believe that they want to know how their money's being spent and they don't want an external audit being done, we'll obviously accept that judgment by the voters, but we think that's very unlikely for a lot of reasons. And I know that this issue came back previously in 2018. First of all, it was a long time ago, 7 years. City's changed a lot. We have a lot of new voters. And clearly in the last 2 years, we've seen example after example after example. I'll briefly summarize them. $10 million for art from New York City at the airport, $1 million on this ridiculous logo that was an international laughingstock. The expensing of lunches, the city council member budgets being spent on personal things, life coaches, furniture, ridiculous stuff. And I think this is probably the tip of the iceberg. I don't think we have any idea how much waste there is in the budget, because all we've ever had done before is internal audits controlled by the people who are making the bad decisions in the first place. And if the outside audit finds no waste, no fraud, no duplication, and no ways to improve things, the odds of that are zero. So for what we're trying to do here is trying to have a serious firm that the city will select within the parameters of the charter amendment, take a full review of how our city spends money, of how all these departments are performing, and make serious recommendations on how we can improve things. The city manager should welcome this. This is going to help the city manager do the job better, more efficiently, understand how city government works better from an outside perspective. And so we will praise the mayor and the 10 council members and the city manager if they embrace this, if they actively support it, help us collect petitions, and support the campaign. Else?
Please. I'd like to reiterate one thing. It is absurd that this community has to create something like this to put the council in a position to do the right thing for this community. I am so annoyed by that, from having to continue to work for things that make sense for the everyday public in this community. I'm going to challenge, and I hope that we know the council members are going to see this, but I'm going to challenge. I want to see the first person to work with Mark Duchin that will come to the table and say, I will join with you on putting this before the vote of this council, because the council could do that. City manager's not going to do it, because this is a kind of government where the council really has the responsibility. It's not like Houston. Houston is a strong mayor form of government. We're a city council form of government. City council are the people that can make this happen. And if somebody will step up and work with Mark Duchin, we might find another 4 people that will stand up and say, we're not going to make y'all go through these gyrations. We're going to do this as a council. You all deserve it as a community. And if you're not willing to do that, then you either need to step down from your elected position on the city council, or this community, the effort that I will put forth to take everybody out of that elected position, that is what I will commit to. And I will tell you, I think that there are a lot of people in this community that feel that way. That's what we need to do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, real quick, Jeff. Sure. Please.
In regards to the question about the city manager, I'm glad to see that he's trying to institute something. But the question always never seems to be asked is, what happened all the years prior to this that got us into this mess? So I applaud the city manager for stepping up and doing this. Yet the councils have passed, and many of them that are presently on there have not supported any type of wanting to understand, why do we pick this? What are the performance levels that we're expecting out of our contracts? Those type of things. Those questions are not being asked. So again, I applaud the city manager, and I really hope that some of these other council members will get up and support, like Mr. Doctor said, support Mark Duchin in asking and trying to make sure that they're being held accountable and asking the tough questions that nobody on this council seems to want to answer, even if they even ask the questions. So, thanks.
Just one last point. This would be a momentous change, very important. But every day we need more transparency about the way money is being spent, especially by the city of Austin. Austin brags about its transparency. It has, on the website, they have something they call checkbook. We can enter someone's name and see if they've gotten money from the city. Well, I went in and looked for the Texas Bar Foundation that Ryan Alter spent $2,500 out of his office budget to buy himself a lifetime membership in the Texas Bar Foundation. And it wasn't there. And I realized why. It's because they don't put their credit card expenses on the website. My point is, this audit will uncover more of that kind of stuff. But between now and then, everybody ought to be pushing the city to be more transparent and put all of it out there. Every penny they spend should be able to be viewed on their website, and anybody that wants to look at it can, and y'all in the media can make sure that voters see what is actually going on with those taxes.
Thank you, Bill. Kathy, do you want to say anything real quick? Just we got one last person, then we'll wrap up. I want to introduce Kathy Coco, C-U-O-C-O. She's a community leader and neighborhood activist in Central Austin. Kathy.
Hi there. I just wanted to make a statement. I agree, of course, with everybody who has spoken earlier. But I would also say a large portion of our city's budget of over $6 billion being proposed now, or that we are on the hook for to pay. And I agree that the city budgets need to be examined. But I would also say the majority of that budget, or quite a lot of that budget, is going to NGOs. And where is our understanding of who the NGOs are supporting? Because once you transfer the money, and I'll give you an example, from Project Connect to ATP, you know, it's this entity, and how do we know what they're spending on? What are the relationships of them to the city council people or to other people in the city? So I would say this is the first step, but the amount of money going to the NGOs also needs to be examined, because they're out of our purview. We can't really tell. You look at their expenses, and they don't really even have to file a lot of them. So that would be my statement. Thank you so much.
By the way, Austin Transit Partnership is a component of the city of Austin in their audit work. They're covered by this.
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
But did you say there was 11?
They will be included. Their expenditures would be included in this independent outside audit.
And I can assure you, current city leaders will not do that. If they do it themselves, they will not do that. Anything else, guys? Any other questions? Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Let us know if you need anything.